Thank you, everybody, for coming to the College Football Betting with Aaron Torres YouTube channel. Before we get to the video that you came here for, if you could do me one quick favor, just click that subscribe button at the bottom of the screen. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow. I appreciate it more than you know. Also, if you want to, click the little bell notification so you know anytime any of our previews go live. We appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Top 10 matchup in Athens, Georgia. Georgia hosting Ole Miss. Georgia is a 7.5 point favorite in the Circa Sportsbook. The over-under is set at 53.5. But I'm going to be quick here because I'll be transparent. I don't have a great feel for this game, and I really spent a lot of time thinking about it, working through it, and I just can't get there on either side. My first inclination was to take Ole Miss plus the points. Let me explain why. I don't think Georgia's very good. The bottom line with Georgia, it's just inconsistency with Georgia. Defense looks great some days, awful, other days. Gave up close to 500 yards at Tennessee. Alabama, relatively speaking, moved the ball at will. But I just feel like every game it's something a little bit different. I think the bottom line with Georgia is this. They easily could be 3-3 right now. The Tennessee game, chip shot field goal. If it gets made in regulation, Tennessee wins, beats Georgia. They lose a game. They lose to Alabama in a game where they never had the lead. And then we don't need to relitigate Auburn, Georgia. But I think I think even most fans that aren't Georgia fans agree. If that call goes the other way on the goal line, if Auburn scores to go up 17-0, I just don't think Georgia is going to come back to win that game. Now, give them credit. They did score 20 straight. They did shut down Auburn in the second half. But I think, honestly, Georgia's kind of living on borrowed reputation. Like when I watch the SEC, I think the best team I've seen so far in the SEC, even with a loss, is Bama. I think A&M is good. I think Ole Miss is interesting, which we're going to find out a lot about. But I just can't get there on Georgia being like this upper tier team in college football. I don't see it. Conversely, with Ole Miss, I do like Ole Miss, but I do think there is a couple things that do stand out to me that concern me. First of all, this is only their second true road game. The first one was in week 2 at Kentucky. Sorry, I don't think – well, actually, I take that back. It was a great environment in Lexington for that game. I don't want to dismiss Kentucky fans who showed out, got a lousy performance from Mark Stoops that day where didn't know how to use the clock or pretty much anything. But I only bring it up because this is only their second road game. The first one was at Kentucky back in week 2. So we're talking about mid-September. It's been over a month since Ole Miss has been on the road. But then even conversely with Ole Miss, that Kentucky game, they took care of business. But you go back to Arkansas. Arkansas is a potential fumble away from winning that game outright. Again, I think Arkansas's offense is good, but it doesn't change the fact that Ole Miss easily could have lost that game. The LSU game, I thought Ole Miss took care of business, but LSU's offense, which we're going to get into in a minute, is an absolute abomination. I think the other thing you got to factor in a couple things. One, remember, this is a revenge game for Georgia. This is a game, if you remember last year, this was a game that Georgia lost at Ole Miss. So to me, I do think it's kind of interesting, what the Georgia perspective is on this game. It didn't end up costing them anything because they ended up still getting to the SEC title game, still going to the college football playoff, and to their credit, still winning the SEC title. But, it's a revenge game for them. The Ole Miss pass defense hasn't been very good. Now, again, part of it was they faced Taylon Green in the Arkansas Razorbacks, one of the better pass offenses in college football. But to me, again, I looked at it both sides. I don't really love Georgia, but I don't really trust Ole Miss in this game either. Go ahead and take a side if you want, but I always try to be transparent with you on this show. I don't just give out picks for the sake of giving them. This is a stay away to me. You know what's not a stay away to me? Vandy-LSU. So Vandy-LSU top 20 matchup. Vanderbilt opened as a 2.5 point favorite in the Circa Sportsbook. Not much has changed. The over-under is set at 49.5. And I'm not going to beat around the bush. I think a lot of people were surprised to see that over-under or that Vandy is favored. I'm not. I think Vandy is the better team. I think Vandy wins. I like Vandy minus the 2.5. That is my official Circa Sportsbook pick. Why is that? It's pretty straightforward. First of all, let me say this. LSU's offense is an absolute abomination. Okay. I don't think people on minute-to-minute basis realize how bad this offense is, okay? So I went ahead and looked it up. So LSU right now is ranked. Let me see if I can find this stat that I found really quick. Okay, first of all, it's worth noting Garrett Nussmeier stinks. And I'm sorry, stop telling me about his injuries. He stinks. He's always stunk, whatever. 22 touchdowns, 17 interceptions in his career in SEC play, okay? But here is the stat that blows me away. LSU is averaging 25.5 points per game. That's 86th nationally. Why is that important? They scored 56 points against Southeast Louisiana, which is an FCS opponent. So if you take out the 56 points that they scored against Southeast Louisiana, they would be averaging 19.8 points per game, which would put them at 115th nationally between Washington State and Wyoming. That is the company that LSU is keeping right now. You want another stat on LSU? The run game is an embarrassment. You know that on the season, LSU as a team has rushed for 690 yards. Ahmad Hardy, who was the leading rusher coming into last week, the back for Missouri, 782 yards alone. So a single back from Missouri has more rushing yards on the season than LSU has on the year as a team. This offense is a joke. I don't know why it's so bad. I don't have the answers. I mean, it's obviously Joe Sloan. Something's going on. I just don't know what it is. But I only bring it up because to me, it's a joke. It's awful. And you have an LSU team. Here's the other thing with LSU too. I'll say really quick. I'm not sold on how good the defense is. I think the defense is good. And it's funny. I got in an argument, not an argument, but a back and forth with a buddy of mine who covers LSU because I said I think the defense is okay. And he said, no, it's top 5 in the country. It's like, okay, I get it's top 5 in the country, but look at who you have faced. You have faced Clemson. Offense ain't very good. You have faced Florida. Offense ain't very good. You have faced South Carolina. I mean, statistically, we are talking about some of the worst offenses in power conference football that you have put up your stats against. And so, listen, I think the defense is good. I still don't think it is in any way, shape, or form great. And so when I look at this game, Vandy's coming off of a bye. Again, I know some of their stats are skewed against Alabama. A lot of their stats came in chunk plays. I don't think it's good. Let me put it this way. I don't think Vandy's going to have to put up 40 points to win this game. I think final score something like 20-10. Vandy wins. Vandy covers. LSU, their offense is an abomination, as I said. And I think, it's so funny, and I don't mean to get side tangenty here, but we are talking about a situation where we know the Arkansas job is open. I believe by the end of the weekend, Billy Napier will be fired at Florida. We don't know what's going on with Mark Stoops at Kentucky. We don't know what's going on at Hugh Freeze at Auburn. Okay. But if LSU loses this game, they're 5-1. They have A&M next week, then a bye, then at Bama, and they close with Oklahoma. They could easily finish 7-5, and I think 8-4 is absolutely back in play. I'm not saying Brian Kelly gets fired off of that, but I mean, what else is Brian Kelly like? Brian Kelly has been given NIL. He's been given the new DC. He's been given, new general manager. Whatever. They stink. And they continue to stink, and I don't have answers why. I don't get it, but I don't think they're good. I think Vandy wins. I think Vandy covers minus the 2.5. Let's keep it going. Next game up on the board, Texas A&M at Arkansas. Texas A&M, a 7.5-point favorite, over-under set at 62. If you have listened to this podcast from start to finish, you probably know where I'm going with this game. I like Arkansas to cover the 7.5 at home against Texas A&M. This is one of my better bets of the weekend, Arkansas plus 7.5. By the way, last week, told you my favorite bet of the week was Arkansas plus 12 at Tennessee. They end up losing by 3. So in this game, why do I like Arkansas? First of all, it's worth noting this. Texas A&M is a great story. Mike Elko is that dude. He's a boss. That team always shows up ready to play. I will say this, though. Much like we said about LSU a minute ago, some of the offenses that they have played, not so good. Florida at home, Auburn at home, Mississippi State can run the ball, but isn't great moving the ball. How about this? The 12th, 13th, and 15th ranked pass offenses in the SEC is who Texas A&M has faced so far. Now they are facing a top 10 pass offense in Arkansas and in Arkansas at home in Fayetteville for the Hogs. I think a couple other variables here. One, I think the defense gets tested in a way they never have before. A&M, first SEC road game. Here's the other thing with Arkansas. If they could just take care of the football, they might be a 5-1 team right now. Sam Pittman might still be the head coach, but even if he wasn't, after the game last week, Bobby Petrino, listen, I thought Bobby Petrino was very measured in his Monday press availability. He's like, if we just hold on to the ball, we're going to be okay. In their three, so they have 4 losses overall. This is Arkansas. The Notre Dame loss was an abomination. But in the other 3 losses, 6-point loss to Ole Miss, 2-point loss to Memphis, and then last week a 3-point loss to Tennessee. In those games, they have turned the ball over 7 times in those 2 games, including last week, 3 turnovers at Tennessee. Back at home, week 2 under Bobby Petrino. I like the A&M offense. The A&M, by the way, is without Le'Veon Moss. I think maybe the best running back in the SEC. This is shaping up to be a close game. I think Arkansas might win outright, but take the take the 7.5 points. I think Arkansas at the very least covers the 7.5. Let's keep it going. A team that's at home that is also an underdog that I don't think is covering their points. It's Kentucky hosting Texas. Texas is a 12-point favorite. Over-under is 43. I like Texas. It might be my favorite bet of the weekend. Listen, I'll say this. I think there are a lot of coaches that are either on the hot seat, on the way out, whatever. Their players are still playing hard for them. Billy Napier, his players are still playing hard for him. He's just not a very good coach, especially on offense, and they're facing good teams. Mark Stoops' players have quit on him, and I think Mark Stoops has quit on Kentucky. These reports this week that Mark Stoops' name has been linked to Virginia Tech. By who? Mark Stoops' agent? By who? The Kentucky AD that is begging someone to take this guy off of his hands so he doesn't have to pay a $38 million buyout in 60 days? Give me a break. He's not a candidate, but this is what Mark Stoops does. This is what he's always done. This is what his agent has done. He's looking for a way out. By the way, I thought it was interesting. His regular radio show thing last Monday, he opted out of. He's checked out. He's afraid of that fan base. And I'll say this for Texas. I've been critical of Texas. I've been critical of Arch. They were awesome last week against Oklahoma. I thought Arch played his best game, but I thought, as importantly, the run game really got going. Quintravian Wisner, I trip over my own words there, but Quintravian Wisner finally gave them a rushing attack, 136 yards against what was then the number 1 ranked rush defense in college football. And then conversely, this is important as well. The defense stepped up in a big way, holding Oklahoma to 48 yards rushing, 1.6 yards per carry, and 5 sacks in that game for the defense. Kentucky, I've been saying this since about week 2. Kentucky under Mark Stoops, when they had success, they won on the margins and they won with the run game and defense. Here is the issue. They have the 15th ranked defense in the SEC. Only Arkansas is worse. 14th ranked pass offense. Arch has been up and down, hit and miss. I think he plays another good game. And let me put it this way. I'll just be blunt. I don't know how Kentucky scores enough. I think they would have to have like 4 turnovers on defense to keep Texas from covering. And maybe they get the 4 turnovers. I don't know. But what I do think is I just don't know how Kentucky puts points on the board. And I don't know how they keep Texas out of the end zone. This one to me feels like it's off by at least a touchdown. This one feels like 31-6 with Steve Sarkisian probably calling off the Dogs middle of the third quarter. 31-6 is my prediction. Texas wins. Texas covers easily. Let's stay in the SEC. A lot of intriguing games in the SEC, and we're not even going to get to all of them. South Carolina and Oklahoma. Oklahoma, a 5.5-point favorite in this game. Over-under set at 43. This is a 3:45 Eastern SEC Network game. I actually like the under of 43. And I know 43 is not a lot of points, but there's a couple things. One, that Oklahoma defense, to the degree that it could be, was embarrassed last week. That was the best defense in college football coming into that game. And Texas certainly didn't move the ball at will. Texas had a punt return for a touchdown. So, you actually do the math. Texas put up 16 points. But conversely, they were able to move the ball. Arch Manning, as I said last game, 21 of 27 against that Oklahoma defense. Texas with 136 yards rushing, about 4 yards per carry. I think we get a great effort from that Oklahoma defense against the South Carolina offense that is just terrible. Take out the Kentucky game for South Carolina. This team has struggled to move the ball. was okay against Missouri with 20 points, but 10 points last week against LSU, 7 points against Vandy. They did have 24 points against Virginia Tech, but they had a non-offensive touchdown in that game. Can't move the ball. This is not the defense to get right by, especially a hungry defense trying to prove a point. But conversely, when Oklahoma has the ball, they still haven't proven anybody that they can run it. And I think that's the thing that not enough people are talking about. Everyone was talking about John Mateer, this and that last week. John Mateer wasn't good, 3 interceptions. He's a little loose with the ball. But Oklahoma all season long has not been able to run the ball. Currently, as we go into this game, 106th nationally in the country in rushing. And a lot of those rushing yards have come from John Mateer. So I think Oklahoma wins. I think it's something like 20-6, kind of a similar score to last week against Texas. I do like Oklahoma to cover, or I do like the under in this game. I think Oklahoma probably covers, but I think the under is easily the safest bet in this game.